Hello, English learners. Welcome back to another advanced lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're going to be back in the office.
That's right. We are listening in as somebody gets a little bit of trouble from their boss for being a bit late on a project.
All right, so we're going to be at the office. Somebody misses a deadline. And so, well, how do you handle the situation? What can you do to explain yourself?
And what language can you actually use to talk about missed deadlines and late work?
All right, so let's see why this person missed the deadline, and let's find out what happens.
And so I just wanted to check in with you and find out where we are with this project. As you know, you missed a fairly significant deadline last week, and this will negatively impact the team's ability to move forward with the next stages of this project.
I know. I'm really sorry that I missed the deadline, but really, it wasn't my fault. You see, we had all of these unexpected technical problems at the last minute, and I couldn't get into the database and extract the kind of information that I needed for the data analysis. You know, if the tech guys would have done their job and kept the CRM stable, then I wouldn't have missed my deadline.
Oh, come on. An excuse like that is tantamount to lying. You're essentially blaming the tech team for your time management issues rather than accepting responsibility for the fact that you were procrastinating for the past 2 weeks.
No, I'm not trying to pass the buck here. I know it was me who was ultimately responsible for getting this done. But the thing is, I could have finished on time if the system hadn't gone down. And you know, with everything I've got going on now, I can't afford to waste time dealing with technical problems. I've got a lot on my plate, and there are only 24 hours in a day.
I'm not going to accept this excuse. You're using these small technical glitches as a crutch and trying to rationalize the fact that you've missed your deadline. Look, we have standards, and I expect you to live up to those standards. No more phony excuses. If you're in over your head, you tell me. No more missed deadlines. Now, I want that data on my desk by 9 a.m.
Well, it sounds like this guy isn't really accepting a lot of the responsibility for his missed deadline.
Yeah, exactly. Well, apparently he's explaining that it wasn't only his fault, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So some technical problems, but you know, he used a lot of pretty interesting language, and I think it'll help us to look at that now in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, so on language takeaway today, we have 5 words, and let's start with the first one.
All right, well, the boss is not really happy with the excuse that the employee was giving, and he said an excuse like that is tantamount to lying.
Tantamount.
Tantamount to something.
Okay, so if an excuse like that is tantamount to lying, what is he trying to say here?
Basically, it's the same as, or it's almost the same as.
So similar to.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say tantamount to something else, how would I use it?
You know, Marco, taking my computer without asking is tantamount to stealing.
Okay, so even though I'm not actually stealing it or taking it home with me, it is almost like stealing.
Yeah, and the interesting grammatical thing here is that we almost always use a gerund right after. So tantamount to verb ing.
Okay, tantamount to stealing, tantamount to lying, tantamount to killing.
Okay. Well, on that happy note, let's go on to our next word. Now, the boss was really unhappy with the employee for procrastinating.
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 So the verb is to procrastinate.
Mm-hmm. And when you procrastinate, you say, oh, I'll do it later. I'll do it tomorrow.
Okay, so you kind of delay things or you leave it for another day.
Yep.
All right, very good. So to procrastinate.
Mm-hmm. A favorite verb amongst college students.
I actually thought for a little while that procrastinate was to have babies.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of similar.
Yeah.
What's the word?
Procreate.
Procreate. See?
Yeah.
So for a while, I always thought that procrastinate was like having babies. Like, why are you procrastinating? And I'm like, I'm not.
Well, glad you got that straight.
So yes, our listeners, procrastinate is not the same as procreate.
Okay.
I learned that the hard way.
Yes. Well, it sounds like you had a little bit of a glitch in your understanding of language, and that's our next phrase. So in the dialogue, they were talking about some glitches with the system.
A glitch in the system.
Okay, so a glitch.
Now, this is common among computers, right? A glitch is an error.
Right. So when you're talking about a glitch and you're talking about computers, it's an error, a mistake. But we also use it to talk about any unexpected problem, a small unexpected problem.
Okay, so a small glitch.
Yeah. There was a glitch in our plan and we arrived 10 minutes late.
Or I can say this movie has a glitch in the story.
So there's a small problem in the story that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
All right, so the employee was blaming his lateness on these small technical glitches, but the boss didn't believe this, right? Mm-hmm. The boss said, "You're trying to rationalize the fact that you missed the deadline."
Okay, to rationalize.
To rationalize.
So the boss is saying that he's trying to rationalize. So that means, is he trying to make sense of it?
Well, this is an interesting psychological word. And when you rationalize something, you think about it or describe it, like especially some bad behavior, in a way that makes it seem better or proper or more sensible.
So you're trying to convince yourself.
Yeah, you're telling other people, but you're also telling yourself that it's better.
Okay. Or that you're right when you're actually wrong.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so he was trying to rationalize the fact that he missed the deadline. So he was trying to explain to the boss and also kind of make himself believe that it wasn't really his fault when it was.
Mm-hmm. Now, because this is a little bit of a difficult concept to understand, I think we should hear some examples.
Example 1.
You can't rationalize your son's behavior by saying he's going through a hard time.
Example 2.
As much as I tried, I couldn't rationalize buying such an expensive pair of shoes.
Example 3.
You know it was the wrong thing to do. Stop trying to rationalize it.
Okay, so clear as daylight now, this word rationalize.
All right, and our final word. So the boss really wasn't happy with these excuses, and he said, "No more phony excuses."
Okay, phony.
Phony.
Phony, phony.
So phony is basically false or fake.
Right, so a phony statement.
A phony watch.
Okay, a fake watch.
Yeah, not a Sony watch, but phony watch.
A phony. So a lot of great words in this dialogue, but as you mentioned, we also saw some very interesting phrases that we can use in situations like this. So why don't we start now with Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
Well, you know, one of the interesting things about English is that we have a lot of ways to make things sound more direct, less direct, harder or softer. And in this dialogue, there were a few examples of how we use softening words to do the opposite, to actually make it a little strong.
Okay, so why don't we start with the first paragraph? In the first part of the dialogue, he said you missed a fairly significant deadline.
A fairly significant deadline.
Now, this word fairly.
Kind of, sort of.
So it's not very significant, it's kind of significant.
Yeah.
But in this context, when the person is saying it, it just sounds a little bit softer, but your understanding is...
It's a very important deadline.
Okay, a very important deadline.
So another similar example of this is the boss was saying, "You're essentially blaming the tech team."
Okay, you're essentially blaming.
So essentially is like basically or pretty much. So it sounds a little softer, but what he's actually really saying is, "You're doing this."
Right. So instead of saying you're blaming the tech team, he adds this word essentially to kind of say, well, basically you're saying it's their fault.
Yeah.
But the context, or you understand that it's actually very direct, and he's saying it's your fault.
Yeah, so he's saying you're almost blaming the tech team, but what he means is you're blaming the tech team.
Mm-hmm. Now, our third phrase is very interesting because it's kind of like a saying.
That's right. So the employee says, "I'm not trying to pass the buck here."
I'm not trying to pass the buck here.
I'm not trying to pass the buck.
Now, what's the buck?
$1 bill.
$1 bill. So we'll understand that he's saying, I'm not trying to blame somebody else or pass the blame onto someone else.
Mm-hmm. But you can think about it like this. Like imagine he had some fake or phony money, right? And he wants to pass that on to the next person so he doesn't get in trouble.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to pass the buck. I'm not trying to pass the blame, put the responsibility on someone else.
Very good.
But you know what? You know what he really means here?
What?
I am trying to do this.
Because he knew, he knew that it was a fake dollar bill.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the fourth one is interesting as well because it's kind of like a metaphor. The boss said, you're using these small technical glitches as a crutch.
So using something as a crutch.
Now, the crutch is
You know when you break your leg, you use those wooden or metal sticks to walk with?
okay, to help you walk.
Yeah.
So the boss is basically saying you're using these technical glitches as an excuse or as an aid to why you missed the deadline.
Yeah, so if you think about it like this, some people might say, okay, if you walk with a crutch, then you won't succeed, right? Because whatever. So this employee is basically saying, yes, I know that I should meet deadlines, but these problems, these glitches are like my crutch that make me not succeed.
Okay, so he's trying to just make excuses. Basically.
So, God, Marco, that was a little bit difficult to understand. Do you think we should give a couple more examples?
Yeah, I think some more examples would be very useful, so let's listen to a couple of them now.
Example 1.
I realized that I was using alcohol as a crutch to get through the day.
Example 2.
I think Bill's very capable of being successful, but he uses his disability as a crutch.
Example 3.
Stop using your weight as a crutch. Just because you're a bit fat doesn't mean you can't get a great job.
All right, so a lot of great phrases, great words, and well, I think it's time for us to listen to this dialogue for the last time, and then we'll come back and talk about this aspect of meeting deadlines.
And so I just wanted to check in with you and find out where we are with this project. As you know, you've missed a fairly significant deadline last week, and this will negatively impact the team's ability to move forward with the next stages of this project.
I know. I'm really sorry that I missed the deadline, but really, it wasn't my fault. You see, we had all of these unexpected technical problems at the last minute, and I couldn't get into the database and extract the kind of information that I needed for the data analysis. You know, if the tech guys would have done their job and kept the CRM stable, then I wouldn't have missed my deadline.
Oh, come on. An excuse like that is tantamount to lying. You're essentially blaming the tech team for your time management issues rather than accepting responsibility for the fact that you were procrastinating for the past 2 weeks.
No, I'm not trying to pass the buck here. I know it was me who was ultimately responsible for getting this done, but the thing is, I could have finished on time if the system hadn't gone down. And you know, with everything I've got going on now, I can't afford to waste time dealing with technical problems. I've got a lot on my plate, and there are only 24 hours in a day.
I'm not going to accept this excuse. You're using these small technical glitches as a crutch and trying to rationalize the fact that you've missed your deadline. Look, we have standards, and I expect you to live up to those standards. No more phony excuses. If you're in over your head, you tell me. No more missed deadlines. Now, I want that data on my desk by 9 a.m.
This employee got in a lot of trouble for missing his deadline.
Exactly. I think it's a very important aspect of not only Western culture, but also in general, assuming guilt when it's your fault.
Yeah.
In this case, we saw that the employee didn't really want to accept the fact that it was his fault.
Yeah, he didn't say, yeah, I know it was me, I'm sorry, and this is my plan to fix it.
Now, this is very important among cultures because in some cultures, the aspect of losing face is so important, right?
Right.
So somebody may not really want to assume guilt, or they have to because it's part of the culture.
But what's the standard in North American business practice?
I would say that you would have to assume responsibility and take responsibility for your actions, right? And say, yes, it's my fault, I did it, but I'm gonna get it fixed, or I'll do it, or I'll make up for it.
So some good business tips here today in this lesson.
Hi, welcome. Are you ready to listen to our story? Let's dive right in. Imagine a moment when you're working hard on something important, a school project, a job assignment, or even just a personal goal, and suddenly you realize the deadline is coming faster than you expected. That feeling of panic, of racing against time, is something everyone understands. But what if I told you that learning how to manage your time and your mindset can change the entire game? Today, we're exploring not just a story, but powerful lessons on responsibility, planning, and using English in a way that makes you sound confident and natural. Think about this phrase, to meet a deadline. It's one of those everyday expressions that people use in work, school, or even personal tasks. For example, you might say, I have to meet the deadline for my report, or we need to meet the deadline for the project, but here's the thing: sometimes we don't meet deadlines. We miss them. And missing a deadline doesn't just mean failing to finish something on time, it can also mean losing someone's trust. That's why English speakers often use phrases like I take full responsibility or it's on me when they admit to a mistake. For instance, I didn't complete the project on time, and I take full responsibility for that. These are powerful, mature ways of communicating. Let me tell you something about time. Time is like currency, you spend it every day. How you spend it decides what you achieve. In English, there's a common expression, time flies. People use it to say that time passes quickly. You might hear someone say, wow, time flies when you're having fun. This phrase is simple, but it connects deeply with everyday life. Imagine applying this to your learning. If time flies, wouldn't it be better to use every minute wisely? One way to take control is by using small, motivating phrases in English to push yourself forward. For example, you can say, I'm going to tackle this task, which means to start working on it with determination. Or you might say, I'll take it step by step, which is another way of staying calm and organized. These are phrases that not only help you in life, but also make your English sound more natural, more like a native speaker. Here's another interesting point. When someone is late or doesn't finish something on time, native speakers often use the phrase, I dropped the ball. It means they made a mistake or didn't do what they were supposed to. For example, I dropped the ball on that project. Learning expressions like this makes your English more colorful and closer to the way people really talk. And think about this, taking responsibility doesn't just make you better at work or school, it also builds trust with others. Saying something like, I'm sorry I missed the deadline, but I'll make it right, shows that you're mature, reliable, and willing to fix your mistakes. That's the kind of language that makes people respect you. Now, here's a little motivational tip. Whenever you face a challenge, whether it's learning English or finishing a project, don't just say, I can't do it. Instead, try using empowering phrases like, I'll give it my best shot or I'll find a way. These simple sentences carry a lot of positive energy and are very common in real conversations. When you use them, you're not just improving your English, you're also improving your mindset. Have you ever noticed how the way we manage our time can completely change our confidence? Imagine this, you wake up in the morning and you already have a clear plan for your day. You know exactly what you will do first, what's next, and how you will reward yourself when tasks are finished. This kind of mindset doesn't just help you stay organized. It also builds your character and shows others that you're dependable. In English, we often use the phrase ahead of the game to describe someone who is prepared and ready for challenges. For example, you could say, she's always ahead of the game because she finished her work before the deadline. It's a great expression to use in real-life conversations, especially at work or school. Now, let's talk about a very common mistake people make when learning English or working on big projects. They wait until the last moment. There's a phrase we use to cut it close. This means doing something at the very last minute, just before time runs out. For instance, if your homework is due at 6 p.m. and you finish at 5:59, you could say, I really cut it close today, but here's a tip. Living life like that adds unnecessary stress and stops you from doing your best. It's better to plan, break big tasks into smaller steps, and finish early. This is not just good advice for work, it's also an important life skill. I want to share a little trick that native speakers use when talking about schedules. They often say things like, I'll block out some time, meaning they will reserve a specific period for one task only. You can use this in your daily life too. For example, I'll block out an hour to study English every day. Doesn't that sound more powerful and serious? It's the difference between hoping you'll have time and actually making time for something that matters. Another useful phrase is to stay on track. When someone says, I'm trying to stay on track, it means they are following their plan and not getting distracted. If you want to motivate yourself, you can say out loud, I need to stay on track and complete this. Saying things like this to yourself in English is also a fun way to practice speaking. Let's not forget about the power of motivation. When you're learning a language, you might sometimes feel tired or frustrated. It's normal. But the secret is to take small, consistent steps and reward yourself for progress. Maybe after finishing a study session, you can enjoy something simple like a coffee or listening to a favorite song. That's how habits are built one step at a time. Finally, remember that English is not just a language, it's a tool for connection. Every time you learn a new word or phrase, think about how you can use it in a real conversation. Instead of just memorizing, create small sentences like I'll stay on track with my learning or I'm ahead of the game because I planned my day. These are the exact kinds of sentences native speakers use every day. There is something powerful about how we talk to ourselves when facing challenges. Words shape our thoughts and thoughts shape our actions. In English, there's a phrase, mind over matter, which means that your mindset can help you overcome difficulties, even when things feel tough. For example, if you're tired but need to finish a project, you can say, it's just mind over matter. I can push through. This is the kind of phrase that native speakers use when encouraging themselves or others to keep going. One of the biggest reasons people fail to meet their goals, whether in language learning or in life, is distraction. We live in a world full of interruptions, phones, social media, notifications everywhere. That's why a useful expression to learn is to cut out distractions. For example, I need to cut out distractions and focus on my English practice. Using such phrases helps you express determination, which is admired in both personal and professional settings. Let's also talk about planning, because planning is like drawing a map before starting a journey. A powerful phrase to learn is to set something in motion. This means to start something with a clear intention. For example, I set my plan in motion by scheduling my study sessions. When you say this, you sound confident and organized. And confidence is something that not only improves your English, but also the way people see you. Another very natural phrase is to get back on track. Life is never perfect, and sometimes we fall behind on our goals. When that happens, we don't need to give up. We just need to get back on track. You might say, I fell behind in my English learning, but now I'm getting back on track. Doesn't that sound motivating? It's a way of saying, I'm taking control again. Here's something many learners overlook. You don't just need to study English, you need to live it. Use English to plan your day, talk about your goals, or even motivate yourself. Imagine saying, I'm committed to this, or I'm making progress step by step. These aren't just words. They are powerful affirmations that make you sound natural and determined. I also want to share a small but very practical tip. When you want to show that you're serious about finishing something, you can use the phrase to stick to it. For example, I'll stick to my plan no matter what. It's a short phrase, but it's packed with meaning and is often used in everyday English conversations. Native speakers respect people who stick to their plans because it shows discipline. Lastly, let's talk about energy. Learning, working, or achieving anything takes energy. A useful expression here is to recharge your batteries, which means to rest and gain energy again. You can say, I took a break to recharge my batteries before studying again. Adding phrases like this to your vocabulary makes your English sound richer, more like what you'd hear in real conversations. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to achieve so much in a single day, while others struggle to get even one thing done? The difference often comes down to mindset and habits. In English, we have a great phrase, to hit the ground running. This means to start something with energy and focus without wasting time. For example, when I start my day, I like to hit the ground running by finishing the most important tasks first. This phrase is perfect when you want to describe a strong, productive start to anything you do. One powerful way to build habits is by creating routines. A useful phrase that native speakers often use is to get into the swing of things. It means to adjust to something and start doing it naturally. You might say, at first, studying English felt hard, but now I'm getting into the swing of things. Notice how it gives your sentence a natural, conversational tone. When we talk about staying motivated, another great expression is to keep the momentum going. Momentum is that sense of progress and energy that pushes you forward. For example, I finished my lesson and I want to keep the momentum going by practicing speaking with a friend. Using this phrase shows not only that you're working hard, but also that you understand how to keep improving step by step. There's also an interesting phrase, bite the bullet. It means to face something difficult or unpleasant with courage. For instance, if you don't feel like studying but you know you must, you can say, I didn't want to study tonight, but I decided to bite the bullet and do it anyway. It's an everyday expression that makes you sound natural and strong. Let's not forget that success is not just about speed, it's about persistence. A phrase like slow and steady wins the race is a classic English proverb, often used to remind people that consistency matters more than rushing. For example, I'm not trying to learn English overnight. Slow and steady wins the race. It's a great mindset to have when working toward big goals. I want to give you another piece of language that is both useful and motivational, to go the extra mile. It means to put in more effort than expected. If you want to impress your teacher, your boss, or even yourself, you can say, I decided to go the extra mile and study for an extra hour today. This kind of phrase doesn't just teach English, it teaches character. Finally, remember that staying focused is like a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it gets. One phrase that helps with this is to keep your eye on the ball. It means to stay alert and pay attention to what's important. You might say, even when I feel distracted, I remind myself to keep my eye on the ball and focus on my goals. These little phrases are like tools you can use every day to speak more confidently and think more positively. One of the most powerful things you can learn in life and in English is how to deal with challenges when things don't go as planned. There is a phrase that native speakers often use, roll with the punches. It comes from boxing and means to stay flexible and adapt when life throws unexpected problems at you. For example, you can say, my schedule changed at the last minute, but I know how to roll with the punches and adjust. Using expressions like this makes your English sound natural and full of character. Another phrase that is both motivational and practical is step up your game. It means to improve your performance and try harder. If you feel like you're not making progress in English, you can say, I need to step up my game and practice speaking every day. This phrase is commonly used in work, sports, and personal growth, and it carries a positive, action-focused meaning. When people talk about overcoming challenges, they often use the phrase turn things around. It means to take a bad situation and make it better. For example, I was struggling to finish my tasks, but I turned things around by planning my day carefully. This is not just a phrase. It's a mindset. It teaches you that mistakes or setbacks are not the end, they're just the beginning of learning something new. Here's another natural and motivating expression: keep pushing forward. You might hear someone say, even when things get tough, I keep pushing forward because I know the reward will come. This phrase gives strength and positivity, and it's the kind of language that native speakers use when encouraging themselves or others. To make your English even more authentic, try using phrases like bounce back, which means to recover quickly after a setback. For example, I failed my test, but I'll bounce back by studying harder next time. It's a very encouraging way to talk about recovery and resilience, and it's used in both casual and professional conversations. Let's talk about another useful idea: learning from mistakes. In English, we often say a wake-up call when something happens that teaches us a big lesson. For instance, missing my deadline was a wake-up call to manage my time better. This phrase is powerful because it shows growth and reflection to things that are important not just in language learning, but in life. Lastly, remember that success is built on persistence and small victories. A very encouraging phrase to learn is small steps lead to big results. When you remind yourself of this, you feel less pressure and more motivation to keep moving forward. You can say, I don't need to be perfect today. Small steps lead to big results. This is the kind of English that makes your thoughts sound positive, determined, and inspiring. There's something truly powerful about building confidence through action. Every time you complete a small goal, it's like adding another brick to the foundation of your success. In English, there's a phrase, one step at a time, which means to handle things slowly and steadily instead of rushing. For example, I'm learning English one step at a time, and every day I see progress. This mindset removes the pressure of perfection and focuses on consistent growth. Let's explore another motivating expression: rise to the occasion. It means to perform well under pressure or when something important happens. For instance, when I had to give a presentation in English, I rose to the occasion and did my best. This phrase is perfect for describing moments when you surprise yourself with your own strength and ability. Native speakers often use it to compliment someone who does better than expected. Sometimes the road to success feels long and tiring, and that's when we need encouragement. There's a saying in English, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. It means strong people don't quit when things get hard, they work even harder. Imagine saying, I know learning English is challenging, but when the going gets tough, the tough get going. It immediately inspires both you and the people listening to you. Another natural and useful phrase is stay focused. While it sounds simple, it's something that can be powerful when spoken with intention. You can tell yourself, I need to stay focused if I want to reach my goal. Adding short, clear sentences like this to your daily practice will improve both your English and your mindset. Let's also talk about the phrase find your rhythm. It means discovering the pace or routine that works best for you. For example, I had trouble studying at first, but I found my rhythm by learning in the mornings. It's a friendly, conversational way of talking about routines, and it's a phrase that can be used in work, study, or even personal life. A great way to keep yourself motivated is by celebrating small wins. In English, you might say, I'm making progress, or I'm getting better every day. Even saying something like I'm proud of what I've accomplished is a great way to boost your confidence. These are simple but powerful expressions that sound natural in conversations and also remind you that progress, no matter how small, is worth recognizing. Finally, remember that success doesn't come from luck. It comes from preparation and persistence. There's a phrase, you make your own luck, which means that good things happen when you work hard and stay consistent. For example, I practice English every day because I believe you make your own luck. It's the kind of statement that both inspires you and makes your English sound real and strong. There's a secret that all successful learners and achievers understand. Progress is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Every single effort you make builds momentum. A powerful English phrase that captures this idea is keep your chin up. It means to stay positive even when things are tough. For example, I didn't get the results I wanted today, but I'll keep my chin up and try again tomorrow. This is the kind of encouraging expression that not only motivates you, but also sounds natural when you speak. Another phrase that is worth mastering is stay the course. It means to continue with your plan even when challenges appear. You could say, learning English is hard sometimes, but I'm staying the course because I know the rewards will be worth it. This phrase shows determination, and it's one you'll hear often in conversations, business meetings, and even motivational talks. When we talk about success, it's impossible to ignore the power of discipline. A phrase that describes this perfectly is stick with it. For instance, I decided to stick with my study plan, and now I see real improvement. It's simple but powerful, and it's exactly how native speakers talk about persistence and long-term effort. We also need to remember the importance of mindset. There's a saying, your attitude determines your altitude, meaning that the way you think and feel can decide how far you go. Imagine saying, I believe in my learning journey because my attitude determines my altitude. It's an uplifting reminder that positive thinking, combined with action, can change everything. Another great phrase to learn is stay motivated. While it sounds basic, pairing it with other words makes it sound more natural. For example, I stay motivated by reminding myself why I started learning English. Adding details like this creates sentences that feel real and personal, just like how native speakers express themselves. A helpful idea is to create your own motivating statements in English. Say things like, I'm proud of how far I've come, or I'm ready for the next challenge. These not only improve your speaking, but also keep your energy high. Repeating such phrases daily is like giving your brain a small boost of encouragement. And finally, I want to thank you for being a part of Best English Podcast Zone.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Same as, equivalent to.
Tantamount.
Later than expected.
Behind schedule.
Very important or very relevant.
Fairly significant.
The action of delaying one's work.
Procrastination.
In essence, basically.
Essentially.
To create an untrue story.
Fabricate.
Used to indicate you justify failure with excuses.
As a crutch.
To give the reasons why you did something wrong.
Justify.
To explain bad behavior in a way that falsely makes it seem proper or better.
Rationalize.
The quality of being late often.
Tardiness.
To have an effect on something.
Impact.
Continue, go on.
Move forward.
Coming without warning.
Unexpected.
At the last moment.
Last minute.
Leave tasks or duties for a later time.
Procrastinate.
Blame someone else. Pass on the responsibility.
Pass the buck.
At last, in the end, eventually.
Ultimately.
Another way of saying I have many things to do.
On my plate.
Not true. Fake or false.
Phony.
Too much to handle.
In over your head.
Let's try that faster. To give the reasons why you did something wrong.
Justify.
Too much to handle.
In over your head.
Later than expected.
Behind schedule.
Another way of saying I have many things to do.
On my plate.
To explain bad behavior in a way that falsely makes it seem proper or better.
Rationalize.
Leave tasks or duties for a later time.
Procrastinate.
Not true. Fake or false.
Phony.
Same as, equivalent to.
Tantamount.
At last, in the end, eventually.
Ultimately.
Very important or very relevant.
Fairly significant.
The action of delaying one's work.
Procrastination.
At the last moment.
Last minute.
To have an effect on something.
Impact.
In essence, basically.
Essentially.
Continue, go on.
Move forward.
Used to indicate you justify failure with excuses.
As a crutch.
Coming without warning.
Unexpected.
Blame someone else. Pass on the responsibility.
Pass the buck.
The quality of being late often.
Tardiness.
To create an untrue story.
Fabricate.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Tantamount. Not telling me everything is tantamount to lying. Tantamount. The way you request things is tantamount to a demand. Be more polite. Tantamount. The president's words were so harsh that they were tantamount to a declaration of war. Fairly significant. There is a fairly significant amount of money in that bank account. Fairly significant. There is a fairly significant chance that you will get the scholarship. Fairly significant. The president talked about how fairly significant economic growth is expected this year. Essentially. By not believing what I'm saying, you are essentially calling me a liar. Essentially. The company is essentially laying people off in order to reduce costs. Essentially. Carl essentially told his boss that if he doesn't get a raise, he's going to quit. As a crutch. I realized that I was using alcohol as a crutch to get through the day. As a crutch. I think Bill's very capable of being successful, but he uses his disability as a crutch. As a crutch. Stop using your weight as a crutch. Just because you're a bit fat doesn't mean you can't get a great job. Rationalize. You can't rationalize your son's behavior by saying he's going through a hard time. Rationalize. As much as I tried, I couldn't rationalize buying such an expensive pair of shoes. Rationalize. You know it was the wrong thing to do, so stop trying to rationalize.